On October 19th, 2021, American Gordon Chang sent out this tweet: "Because we want to live in peace, we must now prepare for war. #China." And if you're looking for a reason as to why the United States and China relationship has deteriorated so much in recent years, it's rhetoric like this from, thankfully, a very small group of Americans that has really caused a tremendous amount of strain on this important relationship that affects every country in the world. Now everyone, my name is Cyrus Jansen. I'm an American expat that's been living around the world for the past 15 years, and if you're new to this channel, I make weekly vlogs about China and its role in society today. This relationship between the United States and China is so important for the future of our world. And unfortunately, as an American citizen myself, I see the United States government conditioning our American citizens to go to war with China. And I want to be very clear here. If there is a conflict between the United States and China, it is not going to come from China first. It will come from the United States. We've seen this multiple times over the years, and this is why it is so important for you to study world history and to study past history. Because if you don't study the past, you're inevitably going to repeat it in the future. Now in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing with you some of the recent articles that I've been reading. I genuinely think that many US politicians want a war with China, but it's time that we take a step back, use some rational thinking, and let's come to a more peaceful conclusion. This is going to be an important episode. Let's get started. We'll start today's analysis by looking at a recent video from 60 Minutes Australia entitled War with China. Now take a look at this thumbnail image and you can see very clearly why this video was so popular, already receiving over 8.5 million views on YouTube since it was published 2 months ago. Let me show you a clip from this video.
We have to be able to sink the PLA Navy, the largest Navy in the world today. We have to sink that fleet. I want Xi Jinping and the next person and the next person to always wonder, hey, is there a nuclear missile coming down on my head right now? You think you're the angry guy with the axe? You have not seen anything yet.
This type of rhetoric, this kind of language is just irresponsible. It is 100% irresponsible, and this is not how we need to be thinking in this day and age. Because let's just be very clear. A nuclear war between the United States and China, there is not going to be a winner. That is the end of civilization, and that is the end of the entire world economy. And this is why we need rational thinking, and we need to take a step back. Cooler heads need to surface, and we really need to think about how are we going to be proceeding with China moving forward. Now that clip was from a retired Navy officer, but look at how this rhetoric is starting to influence the minds and the positions of other American politicians. This was an article published by The Hill on November 21st, and it features Texas Senator Ted Cruz and his comments about the upcoming Beijing Winter Olympics in February 2022. Ted Cruz goes on to state, "I really hope our young men and women, that they go over there and they kick their commie asses. We need to win in the Olympics." Now, I honestly think that this is a very disrespectful and a very tasteless thing for a publicly elected official to state. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being patriotic. When the Olympics are on and Team USA is playing, no doubt, as an American, I will most definitely be rooting for my team to win. But all of a sudden, you can see the political nature that this is going to be turning into. Let me give everybody a scenario. Let's imagine that we have couples figure skating. There's an amazing team from China. There's an amazing team from the USA. American media is going to portray this. This is democracy versus communism. Americans need to win this because we need to take down China, and we need to take down China for the glory of America and for the world and prove that democracy is winning. But again, we're moving very far away from what the Olympics is actually meant to do. Olympics is an opportunity for nations to engage in sport, to bring nations together. And actually, this is really important because this is how the American and Chinese relationship started. It started through sport, through the game of ping pong. Now, as a sportsman myself, I'm very passionate about the Olympics because I realize the opportunities that this provides. The Olympics being held in Beijing is an amazing opportunity for the entire world to engage in more dialogue with China And this is most definitely what is needed moving forward in our world today. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to share with you a personal story and how I'm actually seeing this relationship deteriorate and why this actual narrative from the United States government is becoming more and more destructive and more dangerous moving forward. On November 2nd, I sent out this tweet. Fun thing happened to me today. I brought my twin boys to the US consulate in Vancouver to apply for their American passports. The officer handling my case was from Florida, my home state, and when he saw my Chinese marriage license, he replied, 那你应该也会说中文，对吧? Which means, now you should also be able to speak Chinese, right? I instantly smiled and replied, 哇塞，想不到我在这里会有机会讲普通话, which translates to, wow, I never thought that I would have an opportunity to speak Mandarin here. We chuckled, and he told me his wife was from Wuhan. Small world. I love meeting other Americans with an open mindset and a willingness to learn new things. Hashtag China, hashtag America. Now, the reason that I shared this story on Twitter is because I thought it was a very heartwarming story. Again, this has nothing to do with politics. This has nothing to do with communism or anything. This is simply an American speaking a foreign language. But unfortunately, not everybody had that opinion. As you can see in this reply, somebody went as far as to call me a traitor just because I was speaking the Chinese language. And again, this small example shows you the very dangerous mindset that is being set in America right now. And this, unfortunately, is what we're seeing in America. Asian Americans are constantly being attacked because even if you're able to speak Chinese, that is arguably not a good thing in America anymore. And that is a very dangerous thing for society. And unfortunately, what it means is that we're going back to a very Cold War mentality, and that is McCarthyism. McCarthyism is the practice of making accusations of subversion and treason, especially when related to communism and socialism. It's a term that referenced former U.S. Senator Joe McCarthy, who began falsely accusing U.S. diplomats who served in China as communist. Now, one of the best examples of this mistake that Joe McCarthy made was when he personally went after American diplomat John Service. John Service is pictured at the center of this photo, and standing to his left is Chairman Mao. Now, John Service was born in 1909 to missionary parents in Chengdu. He grew up speaking a native level of Chinese, and he actually went on to spend a significant amount of time with Chairman Mao. When John Service returned back to America and tried to relay those messages that Chairman Mao had passed to him, he was branded as a communist and wrongly put in jail. And this is a great example of sometimes the arrogance of the United States politicians. Instead of listening to someone that literally grew up speaking a native level of Chinese and someone that had the real cultural insights into China, they branded him as a communist, and they didn't want to use that valuable resource that they had. Ultimately, this led America to make significant mistakes in China, and it catapulted them into many catastrophes throughout Asia, including the Korean and Vietnam Wars, all because American politicians were too arrogant. This is an interesting article from Vox that was published a few years ago, but inside has a very important insight. The title is called Why America Doesn't Win Wars Anymore, and inside it shares a very interesting tidbit. America ended up intervening in countries where we had little cultural understanding. To illustrate this, in 2006, at the height of the Iraq War, there were 1,000 officials in the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, but only 6 of them spoke Arabic. A great example of the United States and foreign media misunderstanding China came earlier this year on July 1st. This is a headline from Business Insider. Xi Jinping said other countries will crack their heads and spill blood if they come after China. A stark warning to mark 100 years of the Communist Party. Again, July 1st, 2021 was a monumental day in China. It was the 100-year celebration of the founding of the Communist Party, and what Xi Jinping said was actually very different than what was translated. Let's break it down so everybody can understand. This is the phrase that Xi Jinping said that caused a lot of controversy. It's pronounced 头破血流, which literally means the head broken and blood flowing. But you can see that there's another definition. Here's an example that you could use this in a sentence. 他施助 政坛搞得头破血流. His essay in politics was a complete disaster. So again, this is a great example of foreign media not understanding the nuances of the Chinese language and how idioms are sometimes used. Now, the best example that I can give for everybody to better understand this point would be to say this in English. My friend Jake is having cold feet for his wedding tomorrow. This doesn't mean that Jake's feet are actually turning cold. Of course, this is an English idiom, meaning that Jake is getting nervous before his wedding. You see the difference there? And this is why it is so important to have people that truly understand Chinese culture and why we need to be engaging in more dialogue in China. United States media and foreign media around the world completely misunderstood what Xi Jinping said in that speech. He did not literally say that we're going to bash your head open and make it spill blood. What he meant is that if you are going to try to interfere with China, there's going to be some resistance there because the Chinese people are very united. That's essentially the message that he was trying to condone. But unfortunately, understanding more about Chinese culture and the Chinese language might not be enough for Americans, because look at the direction that the media is going right now. This is an article that was published on November 26 by Newsweek entitled, "Taiwan Could Be the First Domino in a Chinese Land Grab Across Asia." Now, I made reference to this earlier in the video when I stated that it's absolutely vital that you study past history or you're going to be bound to make the same mistakes again. And this is exactly straight out of the playbook of what happened with the United States in Vietnam. The reason that the United States got involved in the conflict in Vietnam and why we went to war in Vietnam was because of this domino theory. At that time, we thought that if Vietnam remained communist, that communism would be spreading throughout Asia. So it was vital for America to go in and establish a democracy inside of Vietnam. The Vietnam War was a complete disaster for America. And as we all know, America inevitably lost that war. To this day, Vietnam remains a communist country. But again, this is where that domino theory was completely wrong. Communism did not spread across Asia like many Americans actually predicted. But what we saw was this domino theory being used to condition Americans to prepare for war. Americans began supporting the Vietnam War because of the domino theory. And ultimately, this could be a way that Americans support a war with China. If Americans realize, hey, China's going to start grabbing land and start invading countries around the world, they might even be coming to America next. You can bet that every American would support America starting a war with China. But again, you have to go back and look at history. China is not a country that goes out and tries to conquer other nations. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in China's history. China is inwardly focused. They're very much focused on making sure that their country succeeds and that their country gets better and better. And that is a very big difference between these two nations. Now everybody, as we come to the conclusion of this video, let me leave you with a recent comment that one of my supporters left me on the channel. Thank you so much for your video. This support is from me myself as an individual, a Chinese who is living in the United States. Today, my 5-year-old son came back from school and asked me how to say 石头剪刀布 in English, which translates to rock, paper, scissors. I suddenly realized that there is so much in common between the United States and China, despite of the differences. Wondering if it could be an interesting topic. Now, I want to give a huge thank you to that supporter for supporting the channel, but most importantly for sharing this really good insight. And again, this is something that I often preach on this channel, and I really think it's really a great way to conclude this video. What we really need to do is we really need to be focusing on the similarities between America and China. I know I've said it before, but again, go back to what that US Navy captain was saying. We do not want to be going around the world and trying to be dropping nuclear bombs on other people or trying to sink another nation's naval fleet. This is just not helpful for the future of our planet. If we are going to be solving this conflict, the most important thing is going to be engaging in more dialogue. And this is why I was very bullish with President Biden and President Xi sitting down to a virtual summit. In fact, in this day and age with Zoom communications, I don't see why these two leaders couldn't have a monthly meeting. I think it's vital that these two leaders do this. Because again, when the United States and China learn to work together, the entire world is going to win. And again, the alternative is what this Navy captain's saying. Let's go to war. Let's try to sink each other. Let's try to get into a nuclear conflict. And that would be a disaster for the entire world. Everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching today's video and spending some time with me here on YouTube. And as we close today's video, I also want to give a huge shout out to one of my sponsors, Surfshark VPN. Recently we ran a Black Friday sale, and I just wanted to go ahead and offer it again on this video because the deal is quite incredible. If you're in the market for a VPN, I want you to click the link down below, and what you're going to be able to do is save 83% off the retail price. And Surfshark VPN, because it's still the Black Friday holidays, and again, Christmas is coming, they're going to be throwing in an additional 4 months of service for free. So again, if you're in the market for a VPN, I definitely recommend Surfshark VPN. They're a big supporter of the channel. They're a big supporter of me. Everybody, I'm Cyrus Jansen. I'm signing off for this next video, and I have some exciting news. I'm also returning back to America for the next 40 days. I'm doing a very large trip, going back to my hometown in Florida to reconnect with my family and spend a little good time back in America. So look for some new content coming out on the channel, some new videos. Can't wait to share with you some insights from America. Thank you so much. We'll see you all in the next video.